Greetings, M Squared here, and today we're going to review a little bit for our geometry quiz. So the first directions are write using symbols. Okay, so what is this? It's a line. How do we write it? Well, we use the two capital letters that represent points, and it doesn't matter what order we write them in. We could say AB or BA because it's a line, and we have to put a line on top, not a line segment, but a segment with two arrows which represents a line. So that is how you write that with symbols or in symbolic form. All right, whoops. Here we go. What is this? Well, we can see that it starts here and goes forever in one direction. That means it's a ray. When we write a ray, we always want to use a right arrow, and the first thing needs to be the starting point. So X, sometimes called the end point, starting point, we're going to go this way. So we start with X, and then any other point on that ray we can use. There's only one there, so we're going to use that one. All right, next, this is a line segment. So again, we use our two capital letters, and we use a line segment above it, and we would say that line segment RT. And you could say TR if you wanted to as well. This is an angle. There are different ways to write an angle. Because there's only one angle, and I know clearly that there's only one angle, I could write it with just the vertex, or I could write it with all three letters, but the vertex has to be in the middle. So we use our little angle symbol, and then we use capital letters representing the points. This is the point where the two rays meet, and then these points, one on each side. Or you could flip that around and say CBA. The important thing is that you know that the vertex is always there. All right, moving on. So this is a plane, and we're going to answer some questions about the plane. So first of all, name the two different ways, the plane in two different ways. So there's usually a little fancy little capital letter up in the corner that doesn't have a dot or a line on it, and we could either say plane R, or we could say plane and then use three non-collinear points. So I could not say BXE because those are all in a straight line, but I could say BCD. Two of them can be on a line, but not all of them. They have to be non-collinear points. All right, next is, with that same picture, name a line. Well, I can see this line here. This looks like a line segment, so I'm going to say line BE, and you could also have said EB. You can reverse it. Next, name two collinear points. Well, C and D are on the same line, B and X, X and E, B and E. I just need to name two, so I'm just going to choose X and E. X and E are points on that same line. So now it says name two non-collinear points. So I'll name one from this segment, C, and then one from that one. I'll name B. So those are two non-collinear points, meaning they aren't on the same line. And finally, name a segment. So we can tell that's a segment by the endpoints. I could say CD, but you could also refer to BX as a segment or XE. As long as you write the segment bar above it, you're talking about that part of the line. So there were lots of options there. All right, let's see what's next. We're going to talk about complements and supplements. So remember, complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. So when it says what is the complement, it's asking me what angle with this 50 degrees would add up to 90 degrees. So I simply say 90 minus 50, and I get 40. And so the complement of 50 degrees is 40 degrees. Well, what if I switch that and said, well, what's the complement of y degrees? Well, again, if you know the system, right? If you know it's 90 degrees minus whatever is there, because complement means 90, then we just say it's 90 minus y degrees. That's actually the complement. A little crazy, but it is. Okay, so let's see if you can do this one. What's the supplement of 20 degrees? Now remember, supplement means two angles that add up together to get 180 degrees. So we're going to take 180 and we're going to subtract 20, and that gets us 160. So the supplement of 20 degrees is 160 degrees. So then what would be the supplement of x degrees? Well, we just put the x there, right? So we'd have 180 minus x, and that would be the supplement of x degrees. Cool stuff. All right, next we are going to talk about the difference that you see here. Okay, so I want to know what's the difference if I say RT with no symbol above it or RT with a segment above it. So it's really important that you see that difference. Sometimes they're going to ask you for RT, sometimes they're going to ask you for segment RT, and you need to understand what the difference is. So RT with no symbol above it means the distance between R and T. So it's actually a number, a measurement. I want to know how far that is, 3 centimeters, 4 feet, whatever that is. I want to know the distance. So it's actually a number. Whereas this is just a shape. It's talking about the shape RT. So it's important to see that and understand that there is a difference. Well, let's look at this. So this says JK, right? You could name it JK or KJ. But if I do it without the symbol, I'm asking for how long it is. So let's measure that. It's 3 centimeters. We'll just pretend it is. I didn't really measure it, but that's what they're talking about. In this one, they're asked, what's the difference between angle A and M angle A? Now, when we read that M, we say the word measure. So we would say, what's the difference between angle A and the measure of angle A? Well, angle A is talking about the geometric shape. So here's angle A. But the measure of angle A is talking about the distance or the degrees. How many degrees is it? It's the measure of angle A. And we would say something like, 40 degrees or something like that. That's the measure of angle A. So the difference between just an angle A and the measure of angle A is that one's talking about measurement. And so when we're talking about measurement, you see this equals. When we're talking about congruent, we're talking about the shape. And we are going to talk about that next. So if you see the measure of angle A, the measure of angle C, they're talking about what the degrees are. So you want to put an equal sign there. That's where the equal sign goes. But remember, congruent means same shape and same size. So if I'm actually talking about the shapes, then I would use the congruent to show that these two are the same or equal. It's a really important little piece that we talk about in geometry. All right, so let's do a few more. So write all the ways to name this angle. Notice that we have one angle, so we can name it by its vertex. We can name it by these 3 points, one on each side, so angle YXZ, or angle, so we can say angle X, or we can say angle YXZ, or we can say angle ZXY just by switching those around. But then you'll also see a little number inside here. Those numbers are sometimes used to make the process simpler, so we don't have to do the 3 letters every time. And you can also use that angle too. So those are all the ways to write that. All right, how many rays can you name? So I can name ray XY, that's a ray. I can also name ray YZ, but that's about it. I can't go ZY, because that stops, it's a segment. It only goes one direction, so I can name it those 2 ways. And let's see, write all the ways to name this line. So there's 3 points, so I have to use any 2 of them. So I could say line AB, remember you have to have the double arrow over it. You could say line BC, you could say line AC. So those are ways going this way, but we can also go backwards, so we can switch the order and name them again. So it's actually 6 ways, and any of them are fine. If you're talking about the whole line, you can do any of those, and it is acceptable. All right, let's see. I got a true and false question for you. True or false? You can name a plane using any 3 points on the plane. What do you think? That would be a false. Why is it false? Because the points must be non-collinear. All right, I think that's all I have for your little review. So if you missed class, hopefully this helps. M squared signing out.